made love. We made love.
Who you made love with?
Bow Wow, Busta Rhymes.
You just told me you see Busta in the airport too. That motherfucker tried to act like he didn't know you. You smashed Drake?
No, I never smashed.
Oh, you made love to Drake.
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. Usher. Usher's a gusher.
Why you not naming no hoes?
I'm telling you, bro. It's my dad's friends. My dad sicked his baddest friends on me.
Y'all be thinking Orlando Brown is crazy, but man, Orlando Brown has been telling y'all, guys, do your history. And some of y'all youngsters, man, you guys ain't even old enough to remember when Orlando Brown was a child star. But man, these child stars have been getting turned out since, man, Nickelodeon, Walt Disney. Can you dig it?
Orlando Brown is out here exposing Diddy, Busta Rhymes, and the rappers they allegedly infected with HIV, including Meek Mill and Drake. So stay locked in, because this goes deeper than most people want to admit. Now, everybody wants to write Orlando Brown off as some unstable child star, but what if he's just the one telling the truth that everyone else is too scared to say? Think about it. Why would so many men keep coming forward with the same kind of story if there was nothing to it? Nobody warned the young ones. Nobody told them what the invitation actually meant, or what the price of walking through that door really was. And the one person broken enough to finally say it out loud spoke up, asking everyone to notice the thirst and the urgency and the need to speak on the situation. The ones who knew the most stayed the quietest. But here's what people keep missing. The parties, the names, the silence, the disease, it's all one connected story.
So you think him and Diddy did have some sex relations?
That's why you think he's acting so nervous when the paintings coming out?
And we're breaking it down from the start. When investigators started digging into Diddy's infamous freak-offs, the wild Vegas nights, those private gatherings, they were already talking about some well-known names. But here's the thing, nobody's bringing up Ray J. Because your boy Ray was out here in those same Las Vegas hotels, turning it up. Hotels were actually complaining about him. Some didn't even want him on the property. And that's where this story really starts to get interesting. Back in those hotel rooms, staff kept finding chocolate-covered magnums. And when he checked out, those rooms were wrecked. But that's just a little context. Now let's get into what this is really about. These weren't regular celebrity parties. Multiple witnesses, insiders, and former associates have described these as carefully engineered setups. Not clubs, not kickbacks, traps. And the people pulled into them were almost never random. They were selected, targeted, and usually caught at their most vulnerable, young, hungry, desperate, for a cosign from someone powerful. That's the foundation. Everything else builds from there. Now, Orlando Brown. Years before Cassie's lawsuit, years before the federal raids, Orlando was already talking. He was going on podcasts, doing interviews, dropping names, describing things in detail, and the world just laughed, called him crazy, a clout chaser, said he was trolling. But here's what people keep skipping over.
You mean these niggas got HIV around me and I gotta drink with these niggas?
Oh, shit.
Fuck you mean I gotta see these niggas till they shit blood?
A big chunk of what Orlando said back then has since been backed up by actual lawsuits, testimony, and federal investigations. Let that land. That moment where he broke down on camera, begging young people to stay away from the entertainment industry, that wasn't a bit. That wasn't performance. That was a man carrying something heavy he didn't know how to set down. Man, y'all be thinking Orlando Brown is crazy? But man, Orlando Brown has been telling y'all, do your history. These child stars have been getting turned out since Nickelodeon, Walt Disney. It's too much stuff going on in this industry, and these people must be stopped. When the interviewer asked him why he was tearing up over career advice, Orlando didn't brush it off. He said, got to be careful with what you asking for. You're not gonna just get music and you're not gonna just get TV very easy. these demons come very swiftly. Not industry politics, not contract disputes. Demons. That is a man describing something specific, something personal, something that happened to him behind closed doors. Next, let's talk about how Orlando first entered that world, because that's where the timeline really starts to matter. Orlando has said he first met Diddy when he was about 15 or 16 years old. Run the numbers, and 15 puts him at 2002. That same year, Diddy showed up on Nickelodeon's All That, the exact network where Orlando was filming at the time. Cat Williams caught that clip when it resurfaced and posted it to his Instagram stories with one line, "They're all in it." That's not just gossip. That's somebody who knows this industry saying the access to young talent wasn't random. It was built into the system. Now let's get into the names, because Orlando wasn't speaking in vague terms. He was specific. Over several interviews, he claimed to have had intimate encounters with multiple high-profile rappers he says were connected to Diddy's circle. He named Busta Rhymes, Terrence Howard, and Usher, among others. Network love. We made love. Buster. Ron. That's Orlando talking. And when Terrence Howard's name came up, the narrator's reaction was genuine surprise. This is the first time I ever heard Terrence Howard's name pop up. Now, these are allegations. None of the people named have verified Orlando's claims. But here's what's hard to brush off. Orlando made these accusations before the federal case, before Cassie's lawsuit, before the raids, before any of this became mainstream. And several names he mentioned have since surfaced in lawsuits, documentaries, and public controversies tied to Diddy's world. Which brings us to the name that keeps showing up no matter what, Busta Rhymes.
Two groups formed real fast after everything with Diddy went public. Group 1 went silent, scrubbed their pages, and suddenly had zero availability. Group 2 stepped up to the mic and said, "Slow down." Busta Rhymes landed firmly in that second group.
That these people at these Diddy parties were so close because they all had STD. So almost like having a disease is a rite of passage for that group.
At the Venom, the Last Dance premiere, Busta got in front of a camera and told the world to back off. I think a lot of times people don't realize how insensitive it could be to have opinions on things that you have no understanding of. Spoken like someone with a very personal stake in the conversation. On the surface, sure, that sounds reasonable. Wait for the facts. Don't rush to judgment. But in the celebrity gossip world, how you defend someone says just as much as the fact that you're defending them. Busta didn't just ask for patience. He went out of his way to frame public concern as thirsty opportunism, and the internet clocked it immediately. Because Busta's history with this particular subject is complicated, there's the measured, respectful quote about Frank Ocean coming out, where he said whatever a man does in his personal space is that man's choice and that man's business. Fine. But then there are reports of Busta at an event completely flipping out on a young gay man who approached him, allegedly using slurs and having bodyguards drag the guy away. And then there's him being spotted at a Miami restaurant known as an LGBTQ gathering spot while publicly keeping his image pointed in the exact opposite direction. And look, Orlando Brown already said what a lot of people are thinking. This is 2026. Nobody should still be hiding who they are out of fear of judgment. The most vocal opponents of something are usually the ones doing it behind closed doors. That's not a conspiracy. That's just a pattern people keep seeing play out. Look, he's not claiming to be part of the rainbow community, but he's not judging anybody either. His words, "You like it? I love it." He's made it clear he's not homophobic. And then he drops something that gets real specific real fast. He says men slide into his DMs just like women do, and not just any men, supposedly straight ones sending him private messages he could expose right now if he wanted to. It's a whole lot of DL stuff going on out here, he said. His advice to women? Strap up, that's it. That's all he offered. Then the receipts start stacking. Back in 2019, a construction worker called Busta gay, and Busta allegedly threw a punch over it. His former bodyguard, Big Homie CCE, went public saying Busta made unusual requests involving young men in his entourage, and that there was an open secret inside his inner circle about his lifestyle. Then there's the account from an openly gay male YouTuber who says Busta walked up to him outside a club, grabbed his hand softly, and invited him into his VIP. The guy's words, "Busta Rhymes just grabbed my hand and he's shaking. He's holding my hand." didn't even know it was Busta at first. That same story reportedly ended in a domestic violence incident outside a restaurant involving the YouTuber, his boyfriend, and a third partner, a polyamorous situation that allegedly got messy because of what Busta was trying to pull. Any single story? Easy to dismiss. But when you've got multiple unconnected people across different years telling the same type of story, that's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And Busta's pattern, the defensiveness, the overreactions, the gap between what he says publicly and what witnesses describe privately, it starts to look a lot like what we've seen from others in Diddy's orbit who had something to protect, which is where Ice Cube enters the picture.
He's talking in code. No, the nigga bent over the couch. Who? Meek Mill?
Because Cube doesn't throw words around carelessly. When he talks about gatekeepers, when he describes the power structure that decides who rises and who gets buried in Hollywood, the club of gatekeepers that we all got to deal with, he's pointing at a system built on loyalty, leverage, and silence. Some people believe Busta's public defense of Diddy wasn't just about friendship, it was alignment, a signal to the right people that he was still standing on the correct side of the wall. Now let's get into Meek Mill, because his situation might be the most telling of all. Y'all heard that audio, and a lot of people assumed it was security who leaked it. That's not what happened. Nicki Minaj allegedly dropped that tape herself, and that's the reason she walked away from him, because he made her film it. The whole thing started as a footnote, literally. Rodney Jones filed his lawsuit against Diddy, and buried in that document was a redacted name, described only as a Philadelphia rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. The internet figured it out in 4 minutes. And Meek's reaction? That's where things get interesting. He didn't quietly call his lawyers. He didn't put out a calm statement. He ran straight to Twitter, offering $100,000 to any investigator who could prove his name had nothing to do with Diddy. $100,000 to clear himself publicly. Legal experts watching this play out said the same thing. Innocent people let the legal process do its job. They gather evidence. They trust their attorneys. What Meek did, the frantic tweets, the cash offer, the threats toward journalists, that's not a defense. That's panic. Orlando Brown, who had been talking about Meek's ties to Diddy longer than almost anyone, had a quick response to that $100,000 offer. You can't take back what your butthole received. Crude, sure. But his point was simple. No dollar amount changes what allegedly went down. And Oshino, who knows the Philly rap scene well, broke down why Meek's reaction made a certain kind of sense given what he'd seen over the years. In his words, Meek was always a famous groupie, somebody who chased clout and wanted to be affiliated with whoever was at the top. Philadelphia's streets don't forget things like that. People in that community have been vocal about how uncomfortable it felt watching someone with Meek's street reputation get tied to Diddy's party scene. Folks in Philly already had their suspicions. When two guys in the industry keep showing up dressed identical, that's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. And the pool footage didn't help. Meek in the water, calling out daddy like that, gave people all the context they needed. Two grown men intentionally twinning for a public event isn't something most street guys would ever be caught doing. If somebody walked into a room wearing what I had on, I'm leaving to change, no question. Now here's where it gets really dark. On May 3rd, 2014, Diddy allegedly dropped $25,000 to rent a Las Vegas venue for Meek's 27th birthday. Property manager Jason Hayes later testified about what the place looked like after the fact, and it wasn't pretty. According to public court documents, they found stained sheets, drug residue, and razor blades, used condoms, bloody sheets. And Diddy had apparently requested that every bedroom door be fitted with double-sided locks, with keys going only to him. That last detail stopped a lot of people cold, because in all the coverage of the Diddy situation up to that point, condoms hadn't really come up outside of the escort allegations. That detail landed differently. But the freak-off parties? That's where things get even darker. Double-sided locks on the doors, men locked in rooms together for days, blood and feces everywhere. That's not a party, that's something else entirely.
Did you at any point feel like you needed to get tested after that, after finding out that you were just like, there was multiple?
Nah, because I didn't find out to the trial.
And if you're dating anyone connected to this world, go get yourself tested. Gene Deal, Diddy's personal bodyguard for years, heard those details and didn't flinch. No shock, no disbelief, just that cold look of someone who already knew. That matters because Deal isn't the type to exaggerate. When a man who operated inside that world says something crossed a line, you listen. Now here's the allegation that keeps surfacing from multiple independent sources, and it can't be ignored. Orlando Brown claimed in his interview that people inside these parties were so deeply connected that serious disease became something they shared. His words, "You mean these got HIV around me and I got to drink with these?" Jaguar took that claim and pushed it further. Her theory is that having an STD wasn't just a consequence of being in that circle, it was practically a membership requirement. The logic she laid out is blunt. If everyone already has it, nobody can pass it on to anyone new. So the drugs, the encounters, the whole thing becomes consequence-free inside that group. She also said she could name at least 20 men in the industry who contracted HIV and have been moving publicly undetected ever since. That's not a small claim. That's a sweeping indictment of an entire ecosystem built on secrecy. Two separate sources, both with direct industry connections, both making the same specific claim independently. That's not gossip. That's a pattern. And the reason this matters goes beyond the obvious. If what Orlando and Jaguar described is accurate, if these party environments were places where disease transmission was happening and being hidden, then the danger wasn't just reputational, it was biological, permanent, life-altering. And many of the victims were young, grateful for the opportunity, with no real idea what they were walking into. That's exactly why the Busta Rhymes situation is worth examining. His public defense of Diddy, telling people to mind their business and let the truth come out, has to be seen in the context of what allegedly went down at these events. Because let the truth come out sounds neutral until you ask, who actually benefits from slowing this down? Who needs more time when the walls are already closing in? He wasn't calling the allegations false. He wasn't defending Diddy's character directly. He was asking people to pump the brakes, to ease up on the urgency. And that's a very specific ask. Here's the thing about a system built on secrets. It only works when everybody stays quiet. The second one person really starts talking, the whole structure starts to crack. Orlando Brown has been talking for years, but he was easy to dismiss because of how he came across publicly. The erratic energy, the wild interviews, the moments people could laugh off instead of listen to. And that's the real question worth sitting with. Why is it that when somebody tells the truth, people assume they're lying? Why does having money, a platform, or a title in the church or the industry make somebody automatically above suspicion? Drop your thoughts in the comments because that's a conversation that's long overdue. Drop that in the comments because TD Jake's doing this. Man, come on. He absolutely could have. Nobody's exempt here, nobody. Everybody's working with the same basic equipment, and we'll get deeper into your girl Jada Pinkett later, so stay tuned. But here's where it gets real. What happens when it's not just Orlando saying this stuff? What happens when lawyers, executives, and industry insiders start echoing the exact same claims? Gandeal has been publicly saying that recordings from Diddy's parties exist, that multiple celebrities are on those tapes, and that federal investigators are methodically working through witness lists. The affidavit states Diddy had every single room taped and bugged. We're talking micro cameras, hidden recorders, the whole setup found right there in the house. Now think about that. Drugs, alcohol, all kinds of activity going on. Every room, every moment, all of it captured. You can choose to stay quiet. You can choose not to come forward. You can even throw money at investigators and hope the story disappears. But you cannot choose whether you show up on recordings that were made without your knowledge. That's the part people can't escape.
Came out saying that he'll pay somebody $100,000 to investigate that he has nothing to do with anything with Diddy.
You can't take back what your butthole received.
And look at these people now, man. They don't have that clear, healthy skin anymore. They're out here suffering, And they can't get access to those experimental STD treatments Diddy had because he was connected at the highest levels. Top-tier medication that regular people like us will never see. Grateful I don't need it, and I never will, because I keep it locked down with one person, like you should be doing.
That right there is exactly why the silence is starting to crack. Not because people suddenly grew a conscience. When those tapes exist and federal agents are holding them, the math shifts completely. Staying quiet stops being safety and starts being a legal risk. And none of the celebrity friends in that circle are saying a word until they know exactly what investigators have. They're all waiting. The ones at those parties, the ones who saw things, the ones who played along with the silence for years. Busta Rhymes going on camera asking people to calm down. Meek Mill putting up $100,000 to clear his name. Industry figures suddenly going ghost across the board. It all clicks once you realize they're stalling for the same information. Now let's go back to something Orlando said that almost nobody gives enough weight to. Strip away the wild behavior, the coded language, the clips that got turned into memes. Underneath all of that, Orlando Brown has been delivering the same warning for years. Don't go into entertainment. Be a scientist. Be an astronaut. Be a lawyer. Do anything that comes from a real place, not from that world. And an ex-law enforcement voice watching that footage said it plainly. Orlando Brown ain't telling no lie. That man is reliving his trauma. The emotion wasn't performance. The color draining from his face wasn't an act. That warning didn't come from someone who lost the plot. It came from someone who walked into that industry as a child, saw things no child should ever see, and spent years trying to tell the world in the only language he had left. The Diddy case hasn't just exposed one man. It's pulled the cover off an entire system. What Orlando, Jaguar Wright, Gan Deal, and the others are describing isn't just about Diddy's crimes. They're talking about a culture, a network, a machine built around parties and environments designed to trap young, ambitious people. The whole point was to create leverage, build silence, and keep everyone locked in. And there's more than enough evidence at this point. You've got Gene Deal talking about Diddy in adult bookstores buying plugs. You've got the tape. You've got reports of him frequenting Turkish bathhouses, which, if you don't know, are communal bathing spots where grown men bathe together. That's the kind of behavior he was out here passing around like it was nothing. Don't be fooled by the industry polish. This stuff was real. It was deliberate. And people need to start talking about it louder. Drop your thoughts in the comments. How are you feeling about all of this? Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you catch everything. See you in the next one.